Just three ordinary guys trying to understand the crazy world around them. We don't have all the answers, but we've got all the questions. You're listening to Just Add Bourbon with Jimmy, JD, and Brad.
Welcome, everybody, to the Just Add Bourbon podcast. I'm Jimmy Don Kerr.
I'm Brad Broaddus.
And I'm JD Darryl.
It's a nice, cool Sunday evening here in the hills of Eastern Kentucky, and we're joined by a special guest. Darryl McCoy from the David and Darryl Sports Show has been kind enough to join us this evening. Darryl, thanks for stopping in.
Thank you guys for having me. I've become a big fan of y'all's podcast here. Love what y'all do.
Appreciate that, brother. We love what you do, too, on the David and Darryl Sports Show. It's good to see somebody local that has the interest in our kids that you guys do. So we do appreciate you stopping in. This will be a little different than what you're used to. Talking high school sports, we're going to talk about a bunch of different topics this evening. JD, you look like you're chomping at the bit to say something.
I just want to let everybody know it's now 3-1 in the room.
Yeah, there's three right leaning against our snowflake JD. I'm sorry, JD, you don't look like a snowflake. All right, so the most again from last week and this week too, the impeachment hearings wrapped up. The Democrats went out and had a party and got drunk after it was all over. Must be thinking that they did some good things, JD. Where you at, brother? Where you at on the impeachment this week?
I just think the Republicans had a bad week. We heard all this whole time that there was no first-hand accounts of any of this stuff. Turns out the first-hand accounts kept piling on. Then we heard that Zelensky didn't even know the money was held up. Turns out that was false. So every time we hear a rebuttal from the right, it turns out to be false. So I'm feeling pretty good about it.
All right, so JD and I sparred last week, and we'll spar again this week. So give me some specific points on where there was firsthand information.
Sondland spoke with the president on July 25th, or on July 26th, the day after the phone call. He spoke with the attorney who was Trump's personal attorney, who was running the show through back channels in Ukraine. So those are first-hand accounts right there. Those are the first-hand accounts. We had Ambassador Hill, who I thought, Dr. Hill, Fiona Hill, Dr. Fiona Hill, who really, I thought Sondland's testimony was damaging until I listened to hers. And I thought she just nailed everybody to the cross.
So on Sondland's, I will be honest with you, I'd had a long day that day dealing with the Martin County water stuff. And I didn't really get to see in that testimony. And you messaged me and said, hey, he said it, quid pro quo. And I was like, okay, did he really? So I went back and watched it. And he did say in his opening statement very clearly that there was quid pro quo. But then under questioning, the only thing that I got that there was quid pro quo for was a White House visit. Now, in our, discussions over the last several weeks, we were most concerned with holding up aid to Ukraine for quid pro quo. But even Sondland said, and I watched that too, Sondland even said that he just assumed that the aid was being held up because, was being held up. So he assumed it.
Sure.
Didn't have firsthand knowledge, and I didn't hear anybody say that they had firsthand knowledge that Trump was actually holding up aid to Ukraine so that they would investigate the Bidens.
So here's the problem that the Republicans have, though, is that the money was held up until, and nobody was ever given a reason why. And money's held up quite often in these things. When the foreign aid has been exchanged, money can be held up, and it does happen a lot. But there's always a reason why. But no reason was ever given why. To the highest ranking ambassador in Ukraine, no reason was ever given why. To the people who write the policies in D.C., no reason was ever given why. So these things happen, and it goes on until September, and then the money is finally released. But what happened 2 days before the money was released?
The whistleblower.
The House opens up an investigation. And then 2 days later, the money's released. So what would be your presumption? What other presumption would there be to make? That the money was held up because the investigation hadn't been done, and now everybody knows it, so we released the money. That's the only presumption there is to make. It's not a presumption at all. It's what it is.
So again, it comes back to the presumption And that's the part that I have an issue with, is the presumption. Everything, we're talking about impeaching our president here,
Sure.
okay? Everybody's assuming that the aid was held up until Ukraine investigated the Bidens or the corruption in the 2016 election. But that never happened. There was no announcement. Announcement was the word used. That never happened. And I still feel, and I still hold to my point, if you're going to impeach the President of the United States of America, it better be for more than just assuming something happened.
Well, but it's like, if all these things happen, it's just coincidence, right? It just had to be coincidence. This money got held up, and then the investigation opened up, and it had to be just a coincidence, and 2 days later the money was released. It's a weird coincidence, don't you think?
So what was said by the other side, the other people on the call, that the Republicans wanted to come in and testify, what did they have to say about the call? Absolutely nothing, because they weren't allowed to bring any witnesses in. So this is the conversation we're having with the hand-picked people that Schiff brought in to testify. So my question with Sondland is, was he a credible witness? Not before he got there, but I'm saying after he testified, he said in his opening statement there was quid pro quo, and then he said under testimony that there wasn't. So he was lying one place or the other. So if you want to pick whichever side that you want to believe and say, well, no, I agree with him because he, if the Republicans say, okay, I want to agree with what he said under testimony, and the Democrats say, well, I want to agree with what he said in his opening statement, what courtroom or trial would that work in? Could you come in and admit to murdering somebody under questioning, and then the judge come in and say, well, I know he admitted to this 3 times, but in his opening statement he said he didn't, so I'm going to drop the case? Just seems ridiculous to me.
And that's honestly where I left from that day of testimony was, I don't know what's going on. I think if you want to believe Trump's guilty, you can believe Trump's guilty. If you want to believe he's not, you can believe he's not. Because you can say whatever you want in your opening statement. I could say whatever I wanted. Sondland could say whatever he wanted. But then once you get direct questioning, his answer did change, JD, and it did. You listened to it too, because I admit he absolutely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, said there was quid pro quo in his opening statement. But then when he got under questioning, that completely changed.
But he was under oath when he gave his opening testimony. We know that, right? Mm-hmm. All right, so he's not allowed to just lie during opening testimony. So I listened to when he was asked this crazy 5-minute question, and I still don't know what the right answer would have been. Everybody says that he asked this clear question and that he answered yes, but it's not true. When that guy asked that question, the Turner guy, I had no idea what he was asking. And I still don't have
thought it was pretty...
I may be the dumbest person in America.
Cut and dry.
But it is not. It wasn't, to me, it wasn't.
He said it's your testimony that nobody on this planet, not Trump, not Giuliani, not anybody. He specifically said the names of those people, and he said, yes, that's my testimony. And then he also said yes to, well, that was assumptions.
Those were my assumptions.
Well,
and he repeated word for word, which was the exact same thing that Trump said that was said in the conversation. I want nothing. I want nothing. I want no quid pro quo. Tell Zelensky to do the right thing.
So let's talk about that for a minute. Have you guys ever worked in the production at all, like in the production field? Because I have, and we'll have safety meetings. And let's say I work at a factory and we make a car part. And my job is to drive forklifts. And I use the forklift to deliver parts. And we'll have a safety meeting out, in the building or the room, whatever, break room. And they'll say, we want absolutely safety first no matter what. Everybody sign this book and make sure so you can see we had this talk. Safety first. Okay, here's my name. And then you go out on the floor and your forklift doesn't have any brakes on it. And you tell somebody, and what are they going to say? Even if it's... So if I just tell my group, I didn't tell the guy who had this meeting with me. I tell the next down guy in management. Well, so is it safety first or is it really production first? But you got on paper that it's safety first. Does that make sense to you guys? I mean,
but what's that have to do? I'm still trying to find the crime. Where's the crime?
The crime is you're holding up aid and you're promising something to get a personal benefit out of it. That's what the crime is.
That's what everybody assumes.
No, it's not an assumption. Let's talk about Fiona Hill's testimony. On July the 10th, she was pulled into the White House along with Bolton, Perry, and Sondland. And the Ukrainian representatives were there. And they asked about a White House meeting. This is July 10th now, before the phone call takes place. And the Ukrainian diplomat asked about a White House meeting. And you know what Sondland told him? According to Dr. Hill's testimony, meeting will happen when specific investigations take place. And you know what Bolton did? He told her, said, you go to Eisenberg, who was the attorney for the National Security Council, and let him know that I'm not a part of what Sondland and Giuliani and Perry are cooking up, because I don't want no part of this.
So I'll go back to
it's not like it was done in secret. Everybody knew it. Even Sondland, in his opening testimony, without being questioned, without being prompted, he said, Giuliani told me, he told my staff, and he told President Zelensky that if he wanted a White House visit, he's got to announce a public investigation into Biden's.
But then he said Giuliani didn't tell him that.
But without being prompted, so there's only two things. He's either a flat liar, and obviously everybody can see that he's lying, or he didn't understand that question.
But there was like three different variations. So again, he was either lying at the beginning of the line, so you have to decide which time was the guy that lies telling the truth.
Well, when you come out with a prepared statement, have you ever wrote down something and then said it perfect, then somebody asks you something and you mess it up a little bit? Because I have. It's a lot easier to go off a prepared statement, right? That's why you prepare statements. Because you know what you want to say and you want to be clear about it. Which is exactly what his opening statement was, a prepared statement.
So you should impeach a president because a guy got flustered and said the wrong words here that didn't match his opening test. I mean, we're not talking about something to ask somebody to step away from running something. You're talking about impeaching the president of the United States. You have a one-sided show where you can only bring in witnesses from one side. I said this when we started having this conversation a month ago. Let's do the whole deal. I want to see everybody go in there and pull the lever, whether they want to impeach the president or not, and take this thing to a trial in the Senate where you have due process. And then just let the chips fall where they may. But there's been no due process in this. It has been selected witnesses. And then half these stories were trying to do all these mental gymnastics to work it. Let's get it all out in the open. Have everybody come in.
So this is what happens when one side doesn't get what they want to hear. They deflect and make it about something else, about the process or about somebody's character. That's when you know they don't have any wiggle room. And that's what the Republicans, the only thing they've done is saying, well, we don't have our witnesses. We have witnesses. The problem is you're not getting the answers you want.
No.
And we didn't have a guy who had mental gymnastics to impeach the president. What you want to do is use his mental gymnastics to get him out of impeachment.
Which of those witnesses?
When he had his opening statement and he said, there was quid pro quo. Giuliani, we didn't want to work with him, but we had to. So why was Giuliani even in Ukraine? What's the presumption? What other presumption is there to make? Why is Giuliani in Ukraine for?
Hold on, we got to rewind here.
To do the president's bidding.
Which witnesses were called which witnesses were the Republicans allowed to bring in? Zero.
No, 2.
0.
There was 2 on the list of 17 that they wanted to bring in.
Nobody that was tied.
That's wrong.
Just like the people this investigation stuff that it started with. We didn't hear from any of those people. What about the other people that were on the call? Like was it a general or colonel the other day comes out and releases a big statement? Hey, I was on the call. There wasn't anything on there. We can't hear from any of those people. So why not?
Because we don't need to. We have what we need to impeach the president.
So you're going to talk about one side being selective.
If the lead ambassador of Ukraine says there was quid pro quo, or quid quo pro, guess what? There was. That's all there is to it.
So again,
and if it's accepted by everybody that's in the circle, and I'll give you the same thing you asked me last week. If the money wasn't released until 2 days after investigation, why is that? Because they knew they'd been caught. Because you know why? Because the simplest answer is usually the right one.
So again, I want to come back to this. Was there quid pro quo, and bear with me here, was there quid pro quo for a White House visit or for aid?
Yes.
Which? Both?
Both. I think both.
So you think both?
That's what seems to be the evidence.
So we went from that to bribery to extortion, and next week we'll be on Stormy Daniels.
Because
we're all over the place on this thing.
Because this is what happens when you have a trial, is new information comes up.
So let's have the trial. That's what I'm saying. This is not a trial.
Well, this is a testimony. It's open testimony.
Well, I know.
From one side, though. Now, you have to admit it's from one side.
So let's have the trial. That's what I'm saying.
It was orchestrated by Schiff.
But it's not like the Republicans aren't getting to ask the same questions to the same people. Is that right or wrong?
No, you're right. But
so how's it one-sided? Because they get to pick the witnesses? They still have the same information, guys. You still have to work with the same information, the same people. You still get to ask the questions you want to ask. Because I don't want to bring in 100 people that don't have anything to do with it.
But you've got people that have more to do with it that they wanted to bring in, and they wouldn't let them bring them in.
You just brought in a whole list of people that didn't really have anything to do with it.
Well, who was that? Name who that was. Because Fiona Hill had to do with it.
Pretty much everybody but Sondland and Hill.
Oh, so
most of the people that you're talking about,
Vindman didn't have nothing to do with it.
Most of the people that you're talking about didn't have a direct conversation with the president. It was all hearsay.
It's not hearsay, Jimmy. If you had a direct conversation with Giuliani, is it now hearsay or is it take it away from hearsay?
But all those people said that they didn't have that conversation with Giuliani.
No, Sondland didn't say that. Sondland said that he did have that conversation.
Didn't he say that? Am I wrong? He was asked the question.
Sondland said,
"Did Giuliani tell you this?" And he said, "No."
In his opening statement, he said...
Again, we're going back to his opening statement.
Well, of course we are, because that's what he said, where he wasn't even questioned. He just wanted to say what he had to say.
Well, we'll pick that one then. Everybody, we're going to scratch the other conversation from the record, and we'll pick that one. JD wins this round. Let's impeach the president.
All right.
Let's go.
No, you're right. You're right. He didn't mess up on one question, so let's not impeach him. Let's let anybody get away with anything they want to get away with.
But
because he did mess up on one question and said yes. That wasn't the right answer.
But why are the Democrats why are they not pushing forward? Let's take it to a trial. If it's worth impeachment.
They will.
Well, I think it's all, honestly.
It's going to.
So
I don't think they will.
So I don't either.
They're going to impeach for sure.
So let's move this forward, okay? Because we'll sit here and do this all night. Because this is the one topic, like most topics, we can kind of find some common ground on. This is not one that we find any common ground on. But I do want to move it forward just a little bit. So what happens next? Like, what is going to happen next? Now, I personally don't think that they will impeach him. I think they're already trying to talk about censure. That's getting brought up because, look, the polls, whether you want to believe the polls or not, people are against this impeachment. People are worn out with this, just like we are. The independents are saying, look, this is more about the politicians than it is the American people. There were polls that came out that clearly this is going the wrong direction. People don't feel like, okay, yeah, all right, maybe he did something that wasn't exactly right, but is it impeachable? And that's where the conversation's headed with independent voters, with all that. That's all the polls that have come out, all say that. And even the MSNBCs, the NBCs are all reporting that. Now, I don't know why, because they don't normally report anything that reflects positively on Trump. So if it does get to the Senate, so say they do impeach, say JD's right, and they do get to the Senate, do you think there's actually a trial?
I don't think the Senate will.
I think they will try it.
I know.
And because they'll get to call Hunter Biden, they'll get to call Schiff, they'll get to call all those people, they'll get to call the whistleblower, they'll get to call, and they're going to blow the whole thing up in the Senate is what I think.
That's what they want.
I think that's what they want, too.
So, that's what I want. I know that's what I want.
But that's not going to happen, I don't think. I think this is going to be...
So, if that's not going to happen, if that's the end game, if that's not going to happen, then what's this process
do this
about?
part?
Because you have a obligation to the American people, because nobody... And we've said this 100 times. Nobody's above the law, except apparently in your
Hillary Clinton,
except in your estimation,
Joe Biden,
except for your estimation, Donald Trump, obviously, because all these witnesses who you say didn't hear anything heard everything. But anyway, so it's going to go. So they still have obligation to uphold the law, whether you agree with it or not. So they have to deliver articles of impeachment in the House. I think the second day of, or maybe the first day of the trial in the Senate, they're going to stop it. I don't think they're
Brad,
because
I want you to remember that JD said this, okay?
Because
that nobody's above the law. We need to mark this on the tape.
You can write that down. I don't care what Democrat or what Republican, who gets in trouble. Nobody's above the law. But I'm telling you, they're not even going to be able to call Joe and Hunter Biden to testify in the Senate. It's not going to work for them either. But I'll play your silly little game. Let's go.
Well, one of the more entertaining things I think has come out of all this is Giuliani and Biden are apparently gangsters, because Biden has threatened Giuliani, and then Giuliani come out and sent a tweet out, or I don't know if he said it on something. I saw it on a tweet, that if they kill me, all this stuff is set and ready to come out, that he's got decades worth of corruption on Biden and those guys. Now, that brings me back to the impeachment thing, okay? Just because Biden's a political candidate, if they were looking into corruption in the 2016 election and corruption that was going on in Ukraine by our government officials, is Joe Biden above the law? Or is that totally off the books because he's a presidential candidate?
No, he's not above the law. But according to Dr. Fiona Hill, who wrote the standard book on Vladimir Putin, by the way, the CrowdStrike conspiracy theory has zero basis. It has been investigated, and it's been shown to have zero. The Democrats didn't get any outside influence in the 2016 basis. So how many investigations do we have to have?
I don't know. You tell me. The Democrats were the ones starting them all.
No. But I thought but Trump's wanted to open up another one to the CrowdStrike, right, in 2016. But it's only a reason because it's a smear campaign, because he's a crook, and that's how he operates.
I agree with that. It's a smear campaign against him, so that when he runs they can't beat him.
It's a smear campaign against Biden. That's why he's won the investigation,
Look,
Jimmy.
They're smearing Trump right now. That's what this whole impeachment thing is about, because they cannot beat him on the issues. They cannot beat him. He will win on the issues.
He don't know the issues hardly.
Neither do they, because all they're doing is trying to impeach the president. Darryl, you got to jump in here. Give us your opinion.
There's no evidence against CrowdStrike. There's been no evidence against Biden. Let's keep opening up investigations.
So, whoa. Pump the brakes now.
Let me still finish off thought. Because they didn't have no problem opening up investigations on Hillary during the political season, did they? Then they have no problem looking into emails during a political campaign, during a electoral season.
Yeah, they read through 800,000 of them in about 2.5 days.
And they don't have a problem opening up an investigation into Joe Biden. Trump obviously doesn't have that problem. So I'm starting to see a pattern here. So every time Trump has an opponent that may have given him a little bit of trouble, let's open up an investigation on him. Man, can I get that office so I can open up an investigation to everybody that I get to have to go against?
So you think Trump had an investigation opened before he was actually president for Hillary?
I think he could.
That was James Comey. Do you think that's Trump's buddy, James Comey?
I think the Republican Party could have done that.
The Republican
Comey?
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, they all run the same service. We know this. We've talked about this.
So Joe Biden you can watch him on video bragging about pressuring Ukraine to fire the guy, but there's nothing, you can't even talk about that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, there is nothing wrong with it because he was enforcing U.S. policy. That's the difference between what Trump's doing and what we're doing.
Okay, that'd be a good place to move on. We can't move past this right here. Let's move on.
So, Darryl, jump in here and tell us what you think.
Well, real quick, it's a total witch hunt from the beginning anyways. So it don't matter.
Thank you, Darryl.
It don't matter if Trump knows or not about the issues. It just matters what side you're on. And he's on their correct side. So, we all know that Trump, he's obviously, I love Trump, but he's an idiot. But
frequently frame these complicated issues in the form of a simple question. Was there a quid pro quo? As I testified previously, with regard to the requested White House call and the White House meeting, the answer is yes.
So are we going to sit here and play clips? We can do that all night long.
So find the video where he says the opposite. If you're
he doesn't say the opposite. Yeah, he gets asked a question and says yes. A question that was not clear.
So Darryl, go ahead and finish your statement.
I'm sorry.
There.
No, I was finished. I was just letting you know, if you're on the right side of the issue, obviously Trump. Listen,
who lost the popular
Trump
vote.
lucked into a job that he never should have had. He just the people knew that he did. I'm the biggest Trump fan you'll find. I'm driving the Trump train, but Trump. He does not have the experience it takes or needs to do it, but he does represent what we stand for, and he's the man that has the power to get what we need done, and that's why Trump is the best option. And as far as the election coming up, he's the best option in that. Clearly, if you watch the rest of the people running, I'm telling you, it's not even going to be close. And I'm tired. It's just getting tiring, like you said. People is tired of this witch hunt. It's been going on his whole tenure. as president. And, we could have done the same thing to Obama millions of times. But finally we just realized, this is our commander-in-chief. Show some respect.
I said this when we first started this podcast. The problem I have with the Democrats going after Trump so much is because when something does finally come up, nobody's going to believe it. You remember me saying this?
Yeah.
And now, but when this came up, I said, no, I think there might be some legs to this thing. We need to check it out. And if Solomon had got up there and said there was no quid pro quo, and then Fiona Hill got up there and said, I never heard about them want to open up an investigation or holding a White House meeting over top of their head, I would say, you know what? There's nothing here. But that's not what they've been done. What's happened is person after person has said the money's been held up, and this is the reason why.
Again, watching the same movie, but watching two different movies. That's what it boils down to. And that's really what I've come away from this whole impeachment thing for the last few weeks is I don't care what. It just depends on what side you're on, man. And that's what you're going to believe. But I think good arguments on both sides. But at the end of the day, I'm really interested in seeing what happens if it does go to the Senate and to see if they will kind of push this trial thing.
And I'll say I don't think they're going to open up a trial because they don't want to have to make the vote.
So, all right, so let's move on to something a little more fun. Did you all see the TV interview? And I don't even know the guy's name. He annoys me. He's on all the... Swalwell. So, I see this video, right? And he's giving an interview with Chris Matthews, and all of a sudden there's just a big rip. And I was like, did he fart? And then I thought, well, that's probably a joke. Somebody's put that in there. Well, Brad texted me at work the next morning and said, did you see that video? And I said, was that real? I thought it was a joke. He said, no, that happened on MSNBC. I was like, do you think it was him or do you think it was actually Chris Matthews?
So did you hear this, Darryl?
No, I've not seen that particular fart. There was another.
Well, okay, so it obviously with the first one I heard, I thought it was something that somebody made up, but then I was seeing multiple people posting this thing just straight off their TV, right? And it made the same noise. But here's what I thought was funny about the story. So it's blowing up the internet, right? That Swalwell farted on national TV. There was Chris Matthews. Nobody came out to defend him, right? He was just out there on his own. But then there was some analyst, right? I posted this on our Twitter account, but it said, "Who farted? Watch and listen. There was farting on MSNBC tonight as Chris Matthews interviewed Eric Swalwell. Analysts believe Matthews was the one who ripped the loud one." So first off, then Matthews comes in later, I believe, and they say that it was a coffee cup scooting across the table. Now, I'm a coffee drinker. My coffee cups have made a lot of noises. I've dropped them, I've rolled them, I've scraped them across the table. Not once has my coffee cup ever sharded. Right? Especially loud enough to be picked up in a microphone. But here was the most interesting part to me, is in this tweet, it says, analysts believe Matthews was the one who ripped the loud one. Now, I'm not concerned with what Matthews did or didn't do. I want to know who these analysts are. And is there really that big of a need that you would need analysts that would be the people that would decide what that was? And then my last question on that is, what are the prerequisites to getting into that profession?
Yeah, I'd like to know what that is too. So is there a college course that you can take in journalism that, you specifically look to identify a fart in a video?
And if there is, I want to stay as far away from that program as possible.
Well, the thing is, farting has been a headline in the news, for the past couple of weeks. Mike Francesca, farted in one of his interviews, and now he's actually out of a job because of this. And you actually sit there. I just thank the Lord that I'm smart enough to buy mics that take out the surround sound, because when I was looking at it just then, I was like, trying to think, I had a brain fart Francesca's name, and then I was like, man, and I was looking at sportscasters that farted on air, and apparently Max Kellerman, Mike Dickus, Shannon Sharp, Stephen A., they've all farted on air, so undoubtedly that's a huge problem.
But they fired him?
Yeah, they need to invest. Well, Mike
He said he
embarrassed
retired.
him to retire.
Yeah. So apparently this is a widespread problem across the nation with our analysts, our our commentators on these shows, and it's so bad that there are analysts who do nothing but listen to these videos and determine whether or not somebody farted.
And if you haven't listened to Mike Francesca, you need to listen to him trying to cover up his fart.
Dude, that was hilarious.
Yes.
Yeah, that was really funny.
That seems a little harsh, losing your job over. With anything else, if you run into any kind of problems, regardless of what it is, there's usually some options. If we can get you some help, or we can give you in direction, you'd think maybe they'd give the guy some Beano or something.
Right. So, all right, so let's jump to another topic here, and this was probably just as embarrassing for this man, probably a little more serious of a reason, but Prince Andrew got kicked out of Buckingham Palace this week because of his association with Jeffrey Epstein. And this is a story, like I said, all the Epstein memes, and it's just kind of the story that keeps on going. And then Prince Andrew, poor guy, somebody told him to do an interview, and that was a disaster. I mean, I don't know who advised him to do that interview, but that was the biggest disaster in the world. And so, I guess a bunch of these different charities that he works with said, no, we're good. Your association with Epstein, we're good to go. And then I saw a woman, I don't know where this came from, but it was on a British TV show. And she was like, well, these aren't prostitutes. Or no, this is not pedophilia, this is prostitution. And I was like, and everybody on the show was like, are you insane? It was some woman, I don't know who she is. But Brad, what did you see with Prince Andrew? Could you see this coming?
Absolutely, especially after the interview. He did the interview, and I think he had just hired a PR guy that quit, I think a day or two after that. And I'm sure they told him not to do the interview. I mean, it was horrible. I don't know if you all saw the interview. It was absolutely horrible. And some of the answers he was given said he just hung around with Epstein because he was loyal to a fault. Basically, I'm paraphrasing there.
And he would stay with him in New York because it was just a convenient place to stay.
Convenient place to stay. So, like right now, this just broke right before we came over here today, that the Queen has canceled his big birthday party. And I know that sounds kind of, cheesy or whatever, but you'll see some things where people will kind of step away from the limelight a little bit. But it almost appears that he's almost been excommunicated from the palace. And I don't think that this is about shunning Prince Andrew for his affiliations. I believe they want this thing to go away because there are a lot of stories that were brushed under the rug in the last 10 years. Going back to the palace, like Jimmy Savile, and the stories just went away. And I think that with this, you're going to see that spider web, and some of these stories are going to start coming back into the light, and they want to get out in front of this as quick as they can.
Yeah, and then you had the ABC anchor that got caught on tape talking about how they had swept these things under the rug. And like I said, it just won't go away. And he's one of the guys that's been affiliated with Epstein from the beginning, along with Bill Clinton. Trump's been affiliated with him. I would say it will be interesting if this can keep going, how far that spider web actually reaches.
Now, before the actual act of Epstein not killing himself,
well done.
We had some discussion on here, about his chances of survival. And I would probably put Prince Andrew in that same bucket right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't show up, have committing suicide here in the next little bit.
So what about we didn't have this down to talk about, but what about the guards? Jeffrey Epstein's guards getting...
Yeah, they actually got arrested. But now I saw, too, that Barr came out and said that it was just a series of... Screw-ups.
He said he watched the video and nobody went into the room, but at the same time, the two guards were arrested. And at first they weren't going to talk, and I think one of them now is saying that they're going to cooperate. So it's going to be real interesting to see where this goes. And I'm trying to wrap my head around. I mean, it sounds like a TV show or something, but it almost makes you think, golly, is this like some witness protection thing?
So that's the guy that's going to die.
Yeah, they probably got him in witness protection somewhere right now. So let's jump on to, like I said, there's 1,000 things going on right now out there. Go ahead.
I thought you were going to go with the adoption right now.
Oh, no, the FISA.
That's right.
It came out that these documents, was it specifically in the Michael Flynn case, Brad, that this came out that they doctored?
No, these are the different ones. The Flynn is a separate issue that happened that Sidney Powell exposed last week, Flynn's attorney.
But this is the one where the Russia investigation started from the beginning with these FISA documents where apparently...
Well, they kind of both are, but yeah, this is I think this one might be, I don't know, Carter Page, is that right?
Mm-hmm. So apparently... the whole Russia investigation, the start of that, which kind of rolls into our next topic, is there's a DOJ investigation coming out next week on the 9th. Not next week, it'll be on the 9th. They announced, and that was Horowitz's investigation into where the whole Russia investigation started. And so apparently some of those documents were altered so that... Well, Rod Rosenstein said that the documents that he saw and then what eventually came out weren't the same.
Really?
Yeah. And so that's going to get real interesting. And I think it's almost going to be, and I'm really talking more about that just to kind of give a preview into probably what's coming up. Like we've had to talk about this impeachment for the past month.
Yeah.
I think that's the story that's going to be the next thing that we have to talk about every week.
Right.
And you've kind of got the Dems scurrying around right now, scared of what's going to come out, because I think you're going to see some high-level corruption when it comes to the genesis of that Russia investigation. It's going to be real interesting to see.
Good. I mean, I will stick with me. Put me on tape. Write it down. If they're corrupt, lock them up. Nobody's above the law. And if they're scurrying, I hope they're scared. I hope we catch them.
I think as of now... I think the dates are like the 9th and 11th. I think they're expecting a report released one day, and then
he's going to testify on the 11th.
He's going to testify on the 11th, I guess, in the report. Well, I don't think they've announced the exact day the report's going to be, but it's kind of expected that that'll happen. We'll see. It's just I guess a week, be about this time next week, right? Week and a half.
For what now? What's the date?
It's the 9th.
The 9th is the day that the report's supposed to be released. The 11th is the day that he's supposed to actually testify.
No, maybe next week's Thanksgiving.
And that could all change. So
yeah, so whenever that is, and of course that could change. But that's, there's a lot of people who believe that the whole impeachment thing was based upon knowing that this report's going to come out, and this is their last-ditch effort to try to get rid of Trump. So, depending on whether you believe that's a conspiracy or not, we'll see. I still tend to believe what you believe, JD, is that this is all a political move to try to damage Trump for the election coming up. You said that 3 or 4 weeks ago.
I think it's about the Senate. Yeah. I don't think unless the economy tanks in the next year and a half, I think Trump will win the re-election.
Yeah.
So I also think that they want to get the Senate Republicans on record with a vote to either impeach or not impeach. And they're going to use that one way or the other.
Yeah. So, all right. So, let's talk about a really weird story. And you're going to have to give me a second because I might have to find it here on my phone. And JD mentioned this to me the other day, and I looked into this, and this is one of the weirdest things in some time that I've ever read. So, the headline in the USA Today says, "Child abandonment or murderous scam, bizarre case of Ukrainian adoption gone wrong." All right. And it kind of starts out like this. The bizarre saga of parents accused of abandoning their adopted daughter in Indiana, a girl who they claim is actually a Ukrainian woman with dwarfism posing as a child, took another turn as the father appeared on the Dr. Oz show this week. So prosecutors say that in June of 2010, Christine and Michael Barnett adopted an 8-year-old girl with dwarfism born in Ukraine. The Barnetts, however, said they found the girl actually was a woman and posed as a child when they adopted her, so they changed her age to 22 before the Barnetts moved to Canada in the summer of 2013 without her. Michael Barnett, however, told police in 2019 that he believed the girl was a child, not an adult, when they left her, according to an affidavit.
And now he denies saying that.
When I read that, I was like, did they truly adopt this person thinking it was a child, but it was really a woman with dwarfism, and they just got tired of messing? I don't know. They said that she threatened to kill the mom and the 3 sons that these people already had. Or did they say, look, this is more trouble than it's worth. We've adopted a psycho here. We're going to Canada and leaving this kid here. That's one of the weirdest things I've ever read.
So, JD, I know you know more about this story than all of us, but that did just catch my attention there when you said this kid was from Ukraine. And I'm just wondering, do you think this is a case of Kid Pro Quo?
Well done, sir.
No, I think it's a crazy story, though. And, so the way I understand it, they go to Ukraine and adopt this girl, and they come back with her. And the woman, Miss Barnett, is bathing her. And she's like, yelling at her, was it Chris Barnett, I think? The husband to come into the bathroom. And she's like pointing at her, like, look. And apparently, she's got pubic hair. She has a menstrual cycle, which would tell you what about it?
That she's older than 8.
She's older than 8, So what happens, this girl, not only does she say she's going to kill some of the family members, she actually tries to poison Miss Barnett.
Oh, that's right. She was trying to pour something, in her coffee.
Yeah. And then she threatened to kill the whole family. And that's when they was like, you know what, deuces, we're out.
Wasn't there something about her trying to push the mother into an electric fence?
Oh, yeah. But here's where the story gets weird. Because
here's where it gets weird.
Oh, no, here's what really, seriously, listen to this. She has what they call dysplasia, some kind of dysplasia. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. Never have been. Anyway, they still can't figure out how old she is. Right now, today, they have no idea how old she is. They did bone density test on her. They've done all these, and they can't figure it out. But she has been readopted after, we've got to say this, the Barnetts packed up and moved to Canada, paid the rent at the place they was at in Indiana for a year, and left her behind. But they did pay her rent. So she's 8 years old. Here she is. As an 8-year-old on her own for a year now. She's, good luck, girl. We're deuces.
They left an 8-year-old in an apartment.
Who they say is 22.
They actually had her birth certificate changed.
Yeah. The family doctor changed her age. And then they was out. They bounced.
So you mean to tell me that we could have a geologist dig a rock out of this mountain behind your house, and if it was 2,000 years old, they'd be able to tell us how old it is, but doctors can't take a live human being and tell how old they are?
Right. That's crazy.
Wow.
Did you see that, Darryl? Did you even see that story?
No, I've not. When it comes to these stories, I live in my car most of the time, so unless it's on sports radio, a lot of it I miss. But no, that particular story, I love politics, but I didn't know anything about that one.
No, that was just, when I started reading more and more into it, I was like, this is crazy. Apparently the reason they went to Canada is because they have a child that is like a super genius. And they figured out that he had, I guess, basically done what he could do in Indiana as far as his education was concerned and took him up to Canada. And now the parents are divorced, and we got this cat going on Dr. Oz.
Jail time? Or?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. They had federal charges filed against him.
If the it is over the age of 18, I don't see any problem with it.
That's why they had the birth certificate changed.
Right.
Yeah, but I don't understand how they can do that, and I couldn't bring somebody over here and leave them in a completely different country and not take them with me. It takes what?
But if they tried to murder you a few times.
This girl threatened to murder or tried to kill the mom.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And told her flat out, I want to kill you.
I want to kill you, and I want to kill the 3 boys.
Well, from what I hear, it sounds like to me if she ain't over the age of 18, she's damn near close to it. If she can do all that.
Well, apparently she's 8. Or whatever.
Whatever it is. JD said, did you all see this? This guy was on Dr. Oz, and I was like, or Dr. Phil. And I was like, no. So I started looking into it, and I was like, what? what is going on in this world? I mean, that was just one of the craziest things. That would have been a good one for our Week of the Weird about 3 weeks ago.
Can you imagine now the people that actually first sent her over here to them people? I mean, they was probably like, got them.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I was about 10 minutes into looking into this thing, and my first reaction, I was like, I've just wasted about 10 minutes of my life that I can never get back. But I got sucked in. I couldn't quit reading it. It just got more bizarre.
That's what I said. Now, here's where it gets weird. You was like, really? And then it did.
All right, so we do this occasionally on the show where we'll talk about a movie that comes out that we think is interesting or that people will like. And I went Friday night and watched the Mr. Rogers movie. I think it's called A Beautiful Day. And then JD texted me and Brad last night and said, hey, I'm going to go watch this movie. Do you guys want to come? And I said, well, I already watched it, but I want to know what you think.
Thanks for the invite, by the way.
Yeah, well, your daughter was with me. Or they actually were at another movie. How'd that end up happening? They went to the movies with a couple of, I guess, boys. They're friends from school. Yeah. They wanted to watch Frozen 2, but the boys didn't want to watch Frozen 2. They haven't reached the point yet where, they can feel masculine and go watch Frozen 2. Me and JD would have been in there holding hands watching Frozen 2. And then, so we went across the street with my youngest daughter and her friends and had some dinner and then come back. And then everybody went and watched Frozen 2, and I went and watched the Mr. Rogers movie. But when JD said, hey, you want to go? I said, no, but I really want to know what you think about it. So what did you think about it?
I left that movie theater. I was blown away. I thought it was an excellent movie. I thought it was well done. I really enjoyed the way they used his set and him on the set. And they would pan out of there to real life. I left really feeling like, when I grow up, I want to be Mr. Rogers.
So I had a completely different reaction. I agree with you. Like, the cinematography was good. Tom Hanks is always good. All his movies are good. But I hated it. And I don't hate movies. And usually me and you, JD, are on point when it comes to movies. We kind of like the same stuff. And that's why I was interested. Like, it was okay. I didn't feel like I wasted my time, but there was a couple of times during the middle of the movie I thought, man, I'll just take a nap. I just thought it was boring. I thought it was fascinating because I loved Mr. Rogers as a kid. Everybody did. Growing up, everybody watched Mr. Rogers. Found him to be a little weird, maybe. But, because that's a true story. This reporter and him, developed this relationship over time. And I don't know. I'm kind of like you. It was neat how they did the movie and how they, showed the behind the set and him doing the puppets. And I don't know that I realized that he did all the puppets.
I didn't.
And so that was kind of cool, but I just thought it was boring. I just did not care for it at all.
Now, Mr. Rogers is, I was interested in watching it because I don't know about y'all, but, I've always heard the story that, he was a bad person. And, a child molester, etc. And come to find out, I don't know, I've not watched the movie yet, but if I was to go to the movie, that's what I would expect to see. Was it a completely different case?
Yeah, no, apparently he was just the nicest person on earth.
Yes, and that's the premise of the whole movie is that, this, I won't give too much away, but this author is known for taking people who have a good name and putting the dirt on them out in public.
Yeah.
Digging up the dirt and writing big articles in Esquire magazine. And so this guy, nobody wanted this guy to do the story on him. And Fred Rogers was the only person that would let him do the interview. And it goes from there.
And you see that's what I was, that's the myth out there about Mr. Rogers. And you hate, I'm glad that you cleared that up because that's what everybody, I know my age, when you talk Mr. Rogers, you refer to him as a pedophile.
And they did clear up one misnomer that I had about Mr. Rogers. I think it's the most popular one from what I can gather. It's about him being a sniper in Vietnam.
Yeah.
I've heard that about him and about Bob Ross.
John Denver was the other one I heard about.
Yeah, and I thought that was funny, too, because the guy asked him in the movie, are you a sharpshooter?
Yeah.
He just laughs, no. But, the story of Mr. Rogers, it was, I guess, kind of an insight into that. But I don't know. I just didn't like the movie. I just thought it was boring, and that's why I was interested to see what you thought, because I rarely find movies that I don't like. I just like movies.
Yeah.
But I just really didn't like it, and I was disappointed because I didn't like it because I really wanted to.
Did Mr. McFeely make an appearance?
Mr. McFeely didn't.
Then I'll not watch it.
The mailman did.
The mailman did.
Now,
Yeah.
you do know that you talked about people that wasn't snipers, but do you know that Judd Nelson was one of the most decorated Rangers ever?
That I didn't know.
I don't know who that is.
Judd Nelson from Breakfast Club.
The bad
Oh,
guy.
okay.
The bad boy in the Breakfast Club. I've learned something new today, Darryl. I did not know that. So, this week coming up is Thanksgiving. And I thought it would be fun to kind of talk about our favorite and the worst Thanksgiving foods. That's something we can all talk about. And so, let's start with Thanksgiving foods that we don't like. And that is, for me, cranberry sauce out of the can. But that is a staple in Amy Kerr's repertoire at Thanksgiving. And everybody loves it.
Except Jimmy don't.
Except me. I think it looks gross. You dump it out of that can, it jiggles. It's like, I don't know. I just don't, it's not for me. Darryl, what about you? You got anything Thanksgiving-wise that you just don't like that is served at every dinner?
You kind of stole my thunder. That thing, I've always wondered since I was a kid, what is that thing? I mean, it always seems to be on the dish, but nobody in my family eats it. It's even sliced to look like, people's eating it, but I've never seen anybody eat it, and I don't know what it tastes like. I mean, I want to try it one day because I think it might be kind of like a spongy Jell-O, but I don't know. As far as any other one that I don't like, I definitely don't like the sweet potatoes. It's got the marshmallows.
What's wrong with you, Darryl?
On top.
Oh, my goodness.
That is un-American.
I hate it.
But really not going to like my answer either. Because I don't get the whole sweet potato thing. I just don't. I don't get it. Potatoes not supposed to be that flavor. I don't like it.
Oh, that's one of my favorite things. I love it. Amy puts the marshmallows on top. Man, oh, God, I
It's
love
all
it.
you,
So
baby.
good.
Like, I know that's a staple of most, dinner place this week, but y'all can have it. I ain't got enough for it.
Now, I'm with you all on the cranberry sauce, and it's something, everybody has it, and it, they do the thing where they slice it up to make it look like they made it, but then you can still see the lines from the can in there, right? So I'm obviously out on the cranberry sauce. Now, this is going to be very unpopular, and this could cause us to lose a number of listeners. But I believe turkey is the most overrated bird on the planet. I don't think it has very much flavor, and I think that for Thanksgiving that we could do something much better than turkey.
We're your ham people, so we won't have a turkey, but you got to have boiled turkey, man. Not boiled, fried.
Deep fried.
Deep fried turkey.
There was
That's where it's at.
there was one Thanksgiving went over Amy's mom's, and Bertie Ray.
Yeah.
He had been turkey hunting, and he killed a turkey and brought it in, and they plucked that sucker right there and then deep fried it, and that was the best thing I've ever eaten in my life.
It's not dry when you're deep fried like that. It's much better.
No, I had it deep fried once or twice, and it is pretty good.
Now,
I
this
can
is
handle it that
my gross Thanksgiving tradition. Amy's mom, Selene, made the best stuffing. They stuff the bird, the whole thing. Amy puts it on like a low temperature. It cooks all night. You wake up in the morning. I can smell it all through the house. And I will get a fork and eat that stuffing out of the pan. Now, it's in all those drippings and all that grease. I mean, I can hear my arteries clogging up as I take a bite. But I swear to God, that is the best thing. Like, my mouth's watering right now thinking about Thursday. I get to do that. I get to do it one time a year, and that is my favorite. So, and I guess the other thing, too, growing up, kind of an odd dish for Thanksgiving, my Granny Klein would make fried chicken. It was so good. But she would make fried chicken on Thanksgiving. Anytime we had a family dinner, really. I mean, she'd have a turkey, she'd have a ham, but she would make fried chicken. And I always thought that was
always good fried chicken.
Me too, Darryl.
I've always, my family, I come from a family where, on Thanksgiving we had ham and turkey. And then during Christmas you have ham. And, I just, man, I thought we was becoming good friends. I thought we had something here. And to say you don't like turkey, I just don't know if I can go on with this.
I understand.
So I pulled up a quick list of the, the top, I guess, overrated side dishes for Thanksgiving. Number one on the list was canned cranberry sauce. I think maybe we all kind of agree on that one. The second one was boiled vegetables. Now, look, if you bring boiled vegetables to my Thanksgiving dinner,
we're throwing biscuits at you.
Yeah, you can stop and walk out. I can't get on board with the boiled vegetables. The popular, and you guys said number 3 is sweet potato casserole, which is with the marshmallows on it.
Now, I don't like it with the marshmallows. I never cared for it much before. My stepmother makes it, and it's got probably about 2 bags of sugar on it, but no marshmallows, and it's delicious.
You're like people who like French fries. Ain't nobody likes fries. Y'all like ketchup. That's what you order sweet potato pie. You just like sugar. That's all that is.
That may be what it is, JD. And then you got ambrosia salad, which I can get on board with. Do you know what that is? That's like the fruit. There's a picture
I like
of it.
ambrosia.
Do you?
My mom puts the tangerines and stuff in it.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of ambrosia salad.
It's pistachio.
No.
Then you
It's not, but it might as well be. It's in
salad.
the same category of stuff that always sits there full and nobody eats it.
Then you've got creamed onions, which I have never, in the history of 44 Thanksgivings, I've never had cream onions at Thanksgiving. So, and then I don't even know how to say that word. I can't talk. CRUDITE. It's basically a plate full of raw vegetables.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, don't roll into my house with that. Corn pudding.
That don't even sound good.
It says, is it cornbread, custard, a savory pudding? No one knows because this dish is impossible to nail. And then you've got caramelized sweet potatoes, which is probably along the same lines. Green bean casserole I like. I don't know. They've got green bean casserole on here, but I like green bean casserole. And then mac and cheese. You can't go wrong with mac and cheese.
No.
How's that on an overrated list?
It is. It's right there, JD. I'm reading it.
I'm not a big stuffing fan either. I don't see the fascination with it.
I can buy some stuff in there.
Real quick, when you was talking about things that you don't know, I'm probably not going to be here for your Christmas episode, but have any of y'all ever tasted that loaf of, what's it called that your grandma's always got? It's like a
Fruit loaf.
Yeah, have you? Anybody ever tasted that?
Yeah.
I always see
I've never taken a bite of it.
Don't.
It looks like it's got mold on it. I mean,
yeah. It's actually got ham on here.
Fruitcake is what they call it, yeah.
It's actually got ham. That's wrong.
Yeah.
Wet stuffing.
There's ham's on the side to begin with.
Yeah, soup, potatoes au gratin, cranberry relish,
I love potatoes au gratin.
Yeah.
creamed spinach. I don't know.
So
Boiled Brussels sprouts. I can get on board with that one.
wet stuffing, that just reminded me of something from my childhood. I had a family member that made some stuffing that was a little less than appetizing, and it was soggy, and she didn't cook much, but she wanted to finally bring something to Thanksgiving, right? She was so proud of herself that she brought something to Thanksgiving, and it was disgusting. So my dad asked her, he said, "Did you make this?" And she said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, could I get the recipe?" And she's all excited. She's like, "Oh, yeah, absolutely." And he said, "Good, because I want to give it to my wife to make sure that she doesn't ever make it like that."
Well played, Father Rodis. Well played. So we just thought that would be fun. You know, Thanksgiving coming up this week. And, of course, the other, tradition, which I love, is to go stuff myself and then go sit on the couch and watch some good football. You usually get some good pro games. And any college games on Thanksgiving night? I can't remember if there's any college games or not. Well, all right, so let's jump into our last segment, boys, and that's college football picks. Once again, Brad and JD went 3-2, and as my record states, I was 2-3. So Brad and JD stayed on pace with each other. I guess JD's still up 4 games on Brad, probably up 6 games on me now. And guys, the Cats, they had a big win. They just dominated poor UT. Was it UT Martin?
Yeah.
UT Martin and Lynn Bowden, I think, has solidified his place as the Paul Hornung Award winner for the year. He, it was just, phenomenal. That kid's phenomenal. And UT Martin apparently cannot snap the ball. Because the first 2, there was a safety on the first play of the game. And then the next time they got the ball, they hiked it into the end zone and we recovered it. Ended up winning, 50-something to 7.
We had another team not long ago that we played that had the same issues. I can't remember who it was, though. It was a few years ago. It was in Stoops there. Had them same issues with the center and the snap.
That was weird. The quarterback ran in the end zone and acted like he was going to reach down and just ran right past the ball. Like, didn't make any.
And then the Kentucky guy just fell on it. So, but the Cats got bowl eligible for the 4th straight year in a row. We also got some good news that Mark Stoops is not going to take the Florida State job. And we were talking in here earlier. Darryl, Darryl is infamous on KSR for being a Mark Stoops hater. So, Darryl, defend yourself. I personally think that Mark Stoops is the best coach that Kentucky maybe has ever had. And I hope Mark Stoops sticks around here for a long time. Are you still on the fire Mark Stoops train?
No. If you listen to KSR in the last 2 years, I've turned my host stance around. Mark Stoops, you hit it right on the head. He is by far the best coach that we've ever had at Kentucky. The thing is, like, people forget what Kentucky football was before Stoops got here. And now they think that, we should win 10 games every year, or we should win, 8, 9 games every year. Listen, that was a special class last year. You had 6 players, I think, that's in the NFL right now, all-fat squad, and that was just one of them teams. We will be back there. If you look what Stoops is got in this next recruiting class and the one after that, we will be back to 10 wins. But Mark Stoops is by far the best thing that we've ever seen. And in football, my main thing in Kentucky football, like, this is a basketball state. We bleed Kentucky basketball. But as long as you have us relevant, you're good in my book. And Mark Stoops has it.
I've said that many times. If we could win 6, 7 games a year and maybe have that special year where we win 10 or we contend for the East or something like that, dude, I'd be happy. I've been going down there. I've had season tickets for 20 years. I've watched us get beat every way that you can imagine. And for us to just we're in ball games. Nobody really comes to town and beats us down anymore. We're definitely not the doormat of the SEC East anymore. Vandy's that now, poor Vandy. And no, I couldn't be happier. I was glad to hear that Stoops said nope. And his heart's in Kentucky, and as long as he and Vince Marrow want to stick around, I will be very happy.
People forget pretty quick where it used to be, like you said. I remember going over there in the Curry days, and if somebody would have said, "Okay, we're looking in the crystal ball here. We're going to have a coach 25 years from now, and they're going to have some good seasons. They're going to beat Penn State in a bowl and go 8-3. Then you're going to have a down year and going to be what they could end up being 7-5." Mm-hmm. That's about as good as it's been in my lifetime.
Definitely, 100%. And my thing is, fans. It was pitiful what you showed them players the other day. On Saturday. They're winning ball games. Listen, we're down to our 4th, 5th string quarterback that ain't even a quarterback. And we've been every week, we've been right there able to win, in position to win the games. That Florida game, if we would have won that, I promise you our whole season would have went different. But the players, I think they kind of went down. If you listen to Cash Daniel the other day, he's kind of, he just lost his mojo, after the ankle twisting. He thinks he lets his hometown down. And, he ain't been able to overcome that. And that's why Cash has took a big hit. I think his legacy has took a hit because of this season that he had. Nothing to do with the ankle, but Cash thinks it's because, he don't want people's perception to be bad about him, and he hasn't had it or been there. And, I really wish that our fans would, all that Cash Daniels has done for Kentucky football in his 4 years there, I wish fans would go out and make sure these last games are special for that kid.
Well, I think this last game, we've got one more home game. It's the last game of the year, and it's against the
Dirty Birds.
Dirty Birds. I think Cash will show out that day. I think the fans will show out that day. I know I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully we can win, in the year with a 7-win regular season, and we'll go get us a bowl win and go from there. And what a day it is when Florida State can't take our coach.
Right.
What a day for Kentucky football. So I know I'm tickled.
On to the picks, and I want to go over the overall records for you. I'm in first place at 38-26. Brad's in second place at 36-28. And Jimmy's in third place with 32-32.
Oh, I broke. So I'm
You're even right now.
I'm even
brother.
right now. I got to step it up this next
Good thing
next
I ain't
week.
been here.
Yeah, because you got beat too.
So before we jump into the actual picks themselves, JD, any other games that we saw this week? I thought Ohio State looked strong. I mean, Penn State played them, but Ohio State looks good. Who won the LSU Arkansas game? I started watching it and I fell asleep.
I don't even know what I'm going to say. LSU.
I'm sure they did. I mean, I'm sure they won. I just didn't know if they beat them down.
I'm looking forward to this week. Ohio State is going to put an absolute. It's one of the games. I won't say that. I don't know if anybody can beat Clemson or not, guys.
So, because they're kind of the ones that fly under the radar.
Why?
Clemson,
But it's
flying under
every
the
year.
radar.
But it's every year. Because these SEC. I mean, I understand. I'm an SEC fan, and I believe we have the best football week in, week out. But guys, this quarterback in Clemson, he's a real deal. That Trevor Lawrence kid, unreal. But
And they're always stacked on defense. I mean, they're always getting, and probably too playing in the ACC. You're not seeing the level of competition necessarily every week that you see in the SEC, but that hasn't mattered the last few years.
And one last point about Mark Stoops, and people want to get rid of him his first few years. I don't think they understand how empty the cupboard was when he got here. And now I'm glad he's been able to stay. And I'm glad to have an athletic director like Mitch Barnhart, who allowed him to bring his guys in and get things done, and to be able to keep him long term.
Vince Marrow is the key to that success.
Yeah, that recruiting.
Well,
I mean, we recruit on a level we've never recruited.
You got to be able to recruit. There's no doubt about it. You got to have horses if you want to run. But we had the people like Matt Elam who come in as a 5-star recruit who had never seen the field because we were developing the 3 and 4.
I know all about recruiting. I'm from Belfry.
That's a fact. That's a fact. We're recruiting 3 and 4-star players, and they're progressing. They're being coached up, and they're passing up to 4 or 5 stars. So that's when you have a good coach.
Yeah, I agree.
When the 5 stars can't get on the field, that's when you got a good coach.
Look, man, I say it's a good time to be a Kentucky football fan. It's, for me, I've loved the football team, loved the basketball. Like Darryl said, this is a big blue state for basketball. But so JD picked the games for us this week. So JD, lead us off.
All right, first game is Ohio State and Michigan. They're playing in Michigan. Ohio State's giving up 9. You want to go first?
I think Ohio State's definitely going to cover. Hardball, he has not had the year that we thought he was going to have. And, I know it's a rivalry game, but I just do not see that game being close at all.
I'll go with you. I'm Buckeyes. I think they're going to run Michigan off the field. They'll cover 9 points.
I'm taking Michigan.
So, JD, you have to pick first or before me in every pick, okay? And here's why. The only way I'm going to get back in this thing is to go kamikaze.
You can't beat me anyway.
Oh, that is right, because there's just 1 week left in the season. Well, I can't. Let's just go. I'm going to Ohio State then. I had come up, in my mind, I'd come up with this plan. I was like, I'm just going to pick the opposite of whatever JD picks. But
So did you hear Jimmy trying to stack the deck every day?
I was. But I was going to go against everything he picked and hope he went 0-5 and I went 5-0, but I'm down 6 games. I can't beat you.
Now, I want to know what Brad's smoking over there picking Michigan.
He's picking against me.
I don't see it happening.
All right, so here's going to be a hard
Well,
one to pick.
I don't know that I see it happening either, but it looked to me by the twinkle in his eye that Jimmy Don was going to go in that direction.
Ohio State didn't cover this week, by the way. They didn't cover.
No, they didn't cover. You're right.
Okay, next game I made it a little harder to pick. It's Clemson, University of South Carolina, and Clemson's giving up 25. I mean, that's hard. I don't know. What do you want?
I think Clemson covers. 25's a lot, but Clemson, they're a different animal right now, and they are as well coached as any team they are out there. And whenever they're going in to their bowl, when it starts getting to that postseason, Dabo has them playing their best ball, and I definitely see them covering 25.
I'm gonna go with Clemson too.
I'm going with Clemson.
I'm going to Clemson to cover too. All right, we got North Carolina State and North Carolina at North Carolina State. North Carolina's -8. They're giving up 8.
Did you say it was at NC State?
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Wolfpack. I think they'll cover 8 points.
I'm going North Carolina.
Yeah, I'm.
It's one of those people I don't really know a whole lot about.
Yeah, it's gonna be
tough
a tough game. But I mean, I've actually watched both teams, and I'm gonna take Carolina in that one.
Okay.
I'm going with North Carolina.
All right. Here's my favorite pick of the week. Auburn, Alabama.
Ooh. Auburn, Alabama.
Iron Bowl. -4. Alabama's giving up 4. I'll take the Tide though. I'm gonna take the Tide.
I can't believe that's all it is. I mean, it has to. Tua has to play into that line there, and I think Alabama's going to come, and I think they're going to roll. I think Alabama wins it by 2+ touchdowns.
I do too. I think Alabama all the way.
Alabama.
And the last one is Stanford and Notre Dame at Stanford. Notre Dame's giving up 14.
So Notre Dame's a 14-point favorite going to Stanford.
Yes. It's a tough one to pick, right?
JD, you go first.
I'm going to take the Irish. I like Brian Kelly. I think they've played some good. This is the hardest schedule I've seen them play this year. They've had a good season still yet. I know they kind of took a couple steps back in the last couple of weeks, but I expect them to get up on track against Stanford and cover the 14.
This is a very, very tough. Every year it's a tough game, and I don't see Notre Dame covering.
Yeah, I'm going Stanford.
Yeah, I'm going Stanford on that one too. I don't know. Notre Dame, they burnt me that one week, but against who was it? Georgia, I think, because we thought, they played Georgia really close.
Yeah. Then next week they landed.
And the next week, So JD, the race is between JD and Brad here, and we got enough different picks where Brad might have a shot.
What's really between me and you, right?
Why is it between me and you?
Because I can't be last.
Yeah, because one of us would be the loser.
Oh yeah. Oh no, it's totally me. I mean,
how many am I behind you, JD?
2.
I'm 2 behind you.
And he's 3 behind.
So I'm kind of right in the middle. So it's.
So let's get this straight. So I thought the winner got to make the other 2 do something.
I think we voted you out while you was here. I think the winner only gets to do something to the loser, right, Brad?
Well, I think the best way to do it, we probably need to go back to episode 1 where we talked about. I thought we said the loser. I don't care either way.
I'm so stewed.
Like it don't matter because Jimmy don't doing something.
I'm doing something.
I thought the loser had to do it.
Okay, all right, maybe
we don't know because we've only had you 2 talking about what you're going to do to me.
Right, that's true. Yeah, we were totally against JD from the start, hoping we'd make JD wear some Donald Trump gear, but that's not looking good. His football prowess has shown through, and he is the leader at this point. So, guys, that'll wrap this one up. Darryl, we appreciate you coming in and sitting down with us. Guys, check us out on iTunes, on Podbean, on Spotify. Go to YouTube, subscribe. That helps us out a ton. So from myself, from JD, from Brad, as we always like to end the show, no matter how bad your week's been, no matter how bad your day's going, if you just add bourbon, it always gets a little bit better. Thanks for listening, guys.